It's been a few weeks since my last update on my rocks, but that doesn't mean they haven't been tumbling. Let's see where they are now. Today, we'll take a look at the latest rocks that are ready to move on to the next stage. Then we'll look at the progress on some of the quartzite rocks. Next up, we'll check out the quartz rocks. And then we'll end things today with the newest rocks that I'm adding to the tumbler, courtesy of my most recent rock hounding trip. So without further ado, here's what's moving on to stage 2. Several quartzite rocks are finally ready. This one here is nice and smooth all the way around, and the colors are going to be great. This rock came from the same larger rock, and it's not quite perfect. There is this little divot here, but you can see that it's part of a little fracture line that runs through there. I'm worried that if I keep tumbling this one until it's absolutely perfect, there won't be anything left in the end. So I'm going to go ahead and move this one on now. Then I have this slice that came from a larger piece of quartzite that we'll look at later, and it looks really nice. It's nice and smooth all the way around. This one has some imperfections left. There are some little rough spots over here, but I really like that there are these larger grains of quartz inside of the quartzite. So I'm going to go ahead and move it on now because I don't think it's going to get a whole lot better. And then the rest of what's ready to move on is mostly quartz. So I have this really nice yellow quartz piece here. It still has that nice indent or divot where you can kind of rest your thumb, but it's nice and smooth all the way around now. And a number of these are just normal yellow quartz pieces. This, you can see there is a fracture that runs through the center of it, but I wouldn't want to break this in half, so it's kind of got to move on now. There are some small fractures that you can see here on this iron-stained piece of quartz, but nothing too bad, and nothing that I can really get rid of by running it through another week in the rough grit, so I'm going to move it on. I think this one's really, really pretty. It does have this area here. You can see there are holes, but I think that's as smooth as I'm going to be able to get this rock. This piece of milky quartz has really pretty iron stain lines running through it. And it's still got kind of a natural shape to it, but it's smooth to the touch all the way around. This one I think is going to be really cool when it's done. So right now, none of these have polished, and I've allowed them to dry so that you can see what they naturally look like. So eventually these will all sparkle, but right now they are just ready to move on to stage 2. Now let's see what's going on with those quartzite rocks that aren't yet ready to move on to the next stage. I'm going to go ahead and get them wet to make it easier to see what we're looking at. So first up is the big piece of quartzite that's been tumbling for a while. It's actually getting really close now. So you can see there are still some holes over here, but that piece that's fractured up here is getting really close to flattening out. I'm hopeful that this one won't be in here too much longer. This piece of quartzite, I don't have too much hope for. I feel like every week there's more spots in different areas that are rough. And so I'm going to set it aside. I'm not sure if I will actually move it on to stage 2, but at a minimum, I'm going to make some space in the tumbler for new rocks this week. And here's another really pretty one. This area is just not quite as smooth as I would prefer, so I'm going to give it more time. And then this one is so close. I know I've been saying that every week, but you can see it's made a ton of progress. It just needs a little tiny bit longer. Now, most of what's still in my tumbler is quartz, like these rocks. So let's look at a few examples. So this one has been in here a couple of weeks now. You can see there's a deep fracture here. This is going to break at some point. Not yet, though. This is an end slice off of a rock that I found. It's got this cool kind of Oreo cookie texture in it. So this is one I'm excited to see what happens with it. And then I think this one is quartz, but it's pretty stained. I like it because it almost looks like bubbles all the way through. So I'm hoping after another week or two in the tumbler, maybe it'll start to look really cool. This is another one that's been in here for a few weeks now, and it's got some fractures to it, but it also has some neat color. Again, there are fractures, but I love the colors. The biggest thing I'm waiting on is for this area here to smooth out a little bit better. Now this one's got some cool color to it. It's pretty smooth, so it hopefully won't take too much longer. Here's another one with some pink to it. I wish it didn't have this fracture, but maybe it'll clear up a little as it tumbles. And some of these are pretty clear as far as quartz in this area go. There's still some probably light iron staining that's causing these yellowed areas, but I suspect as we get deeper tumbling, it will clear up more and hopefully sparkle. And the same thing with this rock here. This one I might give maybe one more week. I don't think it's ever going to be perfect because it has so many fractures, but I would like to get the bottom here smoother. And here's another yellow one. I was really excited when I saw this rock. I thought that it was going to be a quick and easy one, but this area over here needs more time. And this one, I'm hoping this little pink area doesn't go away. So it, I think, gives this rock a lot of character. Now, back to the tumbler. In my last video, I went out to find some new rocks to put in my tumbler, and I found a lot of these. So they don't look particularly special right now, but they have kind of a tan to brown, sometimes gray color to them. And one of the reasons why I picked these up is because I see them pretty regularly. Maybe it'll help if we get it wet. And I've tumbled these before. So these often have little itty bitty tiny flecks in them that kind of sparkle. And so I'm hoping that I will get some really, really good examples of that in here. And you can see it maybe a little bit better over here on this rock. Some of these have kind of a pink or purple shade to little bits of them, which I think will add some neat flavor. So these are going to be the next rock that we follow. And I'm going to continue following the rocks that are already in the tumbler, but these are going to make up a big portion of kind of the newest rocks for the next week or two, until it's time to start adding something else new. And these, because I've tumbled them before, I know that their hardness is around the same as quartz and quartzite, and so I know that they'll do well with the rocks that are already in there. I also tried really hard to remember to pick up these teeny tiny ones, because it's important to have smaller rocks in the barrel so that you don't just have, the biggest ones flying up against each other. You want there to be some small rocks to fill in the gaps. And so hopefully I've got some of those in here. Now, while those rocks get rolling, I've got some rocks that are ready to move on to the polish for next week's video. So I'll see you then.